evening, everybody. My name is Peter Murphy. I'm from the Politics in the Pub Committee, and I'm the chairperson for tonight's session. Now, the topic tonight is Aboriginal Health Services in New South Wales, closing the gap, ? So we have two really well qualified speakers to address this topic tonight, and it's a real honour for me to introduce them to you now. And the second speaker this evening is Bradley Delaney. He's an Aboriginal man and descendant of the Dunghutti and Kamilaroi nations through his mother, the Dunghutti, and his father, the Kamilaroi. He's lived in Western Sydney and southwestern Sydney all his life. Brad is the youngest of 9 children and he's the father of 2 boys. He's worked in government and non-government in various sectors over 25 years, including Aboriginal health, education, justice, and social and community services. He was the chairperson of the Aboriginal Medical Service Western Sydney, which recently had its funding ceased by the federal government. This has left an almost irreplaceable gap in Aboriginal service delivery in the region. Brad is passionate about Aboriginal community control and self-determination.
Thank you very much for having me here this evening. Thanks to Jan, and also thanks to Peter, and thanks to Wynne, the convener of this Politics in the Pub. I feel very honoured to have been invited here by you fellas tonight. Firstly, I just want to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land in which we are meeting here today. Very, very special clan, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I also want to pay my respects to a lot of the elders of that community, of that clan, of those custodians, because there's been a long history between Western Sydney and the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I've always felt very, very welcome. As was said, my name's Brad Delaney. I'm a Dunghutti Kamilaroi man. I'm an Aboriginal man. My mother is a Dunghutti woman and my father's a Kamilaroi man up around the northern areas of New South Wales. I myself, I grew up all my life in Western Sydney, so I suppose compared to them and compared to my sister and my brothers, I've probably had the most fortunate life out of all of them, because when I was born in 1972, I was a citizen of this country. I was counted, whereas every single other one of my siblings, including my aunts and uncles and the rest of the mob, they weren't considered to be that. Things have moved on, obviously, and Aboriginal people are very, very grateful for what happened over 40 odd years ago. Just might want to ask you a bit of a personal question, if you don't mind, before I get into the presentation. When I was a 32-year-old man, when I was 32 years of age, the doctor that I went to see, I asked him, I said, "Doc, why am I getting all these headaches?" And he said to me, "All right, Brad, let's do some tests." So I did some tests, and he said to me, "You've got high blood pressure." So how many of you, when you were 32 years old, were told that you had a high blood pressure? Put up your hands. Okay, so there's a couple. And I know my other brothers and sisters sitting there will probably put up their hands. How many of you, leave your hands up, sorry. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but how many of you at the same age were told that you may need treatment, or you may need to do something because you potentially could have diabetes? Okay, and look, it doesn't surprise you that that's the case. With Aboriginal people, it's widely reported, and I'm living proof of it, as are my family, as are my community, that we need more care than any other cohort, any other race of people in this country. We need Aboriginal medical services. We need the care, we need specialist services at a far younger age. Look, I was a 32-year-old man. I was playing football. I was fit. I know I could have been fitter. I probably could have drunk a little less. I could have trained a little bit harder, but you know, I'm 32, I'm thinking I'm in the prime of my life, and here's a doctor telling me that I've got to take a pill every single day for the rest of my life. And you know, that to me was a big shock. I was in denial for about 2 or 3 years. I'm not bloody doing that, no way. What do I need to do this for? I'm young, I'll be right. But when the headaches got that bad, and you know, I started having a few little dizzy spells here and there, I thought, well, geez, this is serious, I better do something about this. And the thing that shocked me the most, and sorry if I get a bit emotional about this, but the thing that shocked me the most was that I found out that I sort of joined a very unique club. I'm the youngest of 9 kids, and all of my family members were on some sort of medication for something. And that shocked me because, you know, as close as we are, I didn't think that, you know, this sort of thing was going on with our family. I knew Aboriginal people needed special care, but I just didn't think that this was happening to my family. I knew my dad had a bit of a turn when he was in his 50s. You know, we knew that, and my mum died when she was very young. We knew that. I'm just about to pass her age actually. When she left this earth. But look, I just thought I wanted to point that out firstly, that Aboriginal people need care. We need specialist services. And the Aboriginal Medical Service Western Sydney was one of those. And gone were the days from 1987 where we had to jump on the train or get in the car and come all the way from Western Sydney into Redfern to see the doctor for whatever, see the dentist for whatever. We had our own service. It was great. You know, we're located out there in Western Sydney. The Durban Local Aboriginal Land Council, if any of you fellas know the Land Council system, we're located in that boundary, and we like to think that was our catchment. Actually, the board made a decision way back when it began in 1987 to make that our catchment, and they're some of the local government areas that are the intake, or were the intake. There's a bit of a map there, so you can get a general idea. So look, we didn't come as far east as Parramatta, if we can say that, far east as Parramatta. Parramatta's still out in the west. And I think the border may have been Silverwater Road, but then also going towards the west, we stretched as far as Lithgow. And down to the south, we sort of bordered on Ganangara, Darawal land. We had that sort of intake, but Western Sydney, I will say Blacktown and Penrith were pretty much the centre of our catchment. And so 87, the Aboriginal Medical Service of Western Sydney began. It was only 16 hours, you know, it wasn't that much. We had the minimal amount of staff, as you can see there. And in 1988, after 200 years of colonisation, state and federal funding became available, and we began to increase to every single day of the week, 35 hours a week. You know, things were going pretty good for the AMS in Western Sydney. And you know, this is around the time I'm just leaving high school, right, mind you. And the reason I'm going to keep this a bit of a timeline, I'll come to that later. 1991, we outgrew the premises that we originally set up in. And look, when I think about it, it was dingy. It really was dingy, but it was what we had, and we did what we could to make it work. It was something that we knew was ours. We could operate services from to try and treat the ailments and the little conditions that Aboriginal people were having in our community. Now back then, the numbers weren't as big as they were when we ended, but you know, the numbers started to increase over the years. In 1999, the building that we moved into, within 2 or 3 months of being in that, we started to outgrow it. And that was mainly because the amount of people that we had coming in to use our service, it was going through the roof. You know, we were doing our best to try and keep up with what was required. But you know, there were times where we just thought, geez, we need a new place. We need a new place. In 2012, so a few years ago, we celebrated 25 years. We had a bit of a shindig out at Penrith Panthers there, where we felt we need to do something about this and we need to celebrate, you know, the achievement that we've had out here in Western Sydney. And you know, we invited as many patients, all the staff, you know, as many people as we could, people that had assisted us along the way, including the Redfern AMS, who were very instrumental in ensuring that our AMS, you know, we got off the ground in the early days. The Redfern AMS, I don't know if you fellows are aware, but they were very, very instrumental in establishing a lot of AMSs around the country, and they did that off their own bat. In many occasions they didn't get any funding whatsoever to travel all the way up to Central and Western Australia. They did that off their own bat. So that, you know, that just goes to show the calibre of the people that work within Aboriginal Medical Service, and especially in Redfern. In 2008, you know, the government started changing goalposts, and you know, all sorts of new accreditations and things like that we needed to get. That took us a long time to get, and you know, we worked very hard. The staff worked very hard. Our CEO worked very hard. We all did our best to ensure that we meet that accreditation. You know, I don't know if any of you know what UPAL is, but there is so many points. There's so many, I don't know what are the words, so many standards that you've got to adhere to provide any sort of health service. We did that. We're very proud of that. And look, at the time, if I use a point in time, the 30th of June, we had 21,000 patient files at the AMS in Western Sydney. And of that 21,000, I know that there was probably about 11 to 12,000 active files. So that's 11,000 Aboriginal people coming in to use the service over a year. Our vision and our purpose, I think, really goes without saying, and we wanted to make sure that, you know, everyone had the highest quality of service, and that it was provided in the most efficient manner, and it was something that was appropriate. We had a high number of Aboriginal people working in the service. That was something that the board always endeavoured to do. We know that there's certain expertise that we needed to tap into, but you know, we always had the idea that, you know, this service is for Aboriginal people. We want to make sure that it's appropriate. We wanted to make sure that it's efficient and effective, and all those standards that we had to meet in that accreditation were all addressed as far as, you know, providing that effective service, that primary health care, and those related services that go around primary health care, and also to go on to our purpose. It was obviously to provide a high standard of care. That's paramount. That was at the forefront of our thinking. We wanted to make sure that the care that we were providing, while, you know, trying to deal with everything with the person. If I use myself again as an example, whenever I went there, I almost felt I was being interrogated by the doctor. So Brad, what's going on with this, and what's going on with that, and can we take some blood, and can we take some urine, and can we do this, and can we do that? I want to test your eyes, and yeah. But you know, at the same time, rather than just going to the doctor and, you know, getting the certificate and the script, I had the feeling that they cared. So, you know, they want to deal with every single little issue of mine. Even though I was still a young man, but I'm a young man with high blood pressure. And every time I went to the doctor, they'd always test me blood pressure, and they'd know if I wasn't taking that little white pill or not. Because if it was up, then I'd get in trouble, you know, like I said, that interrogation. But that was all for a good reason. But the AMS, believe it or not, still has a strategic plan and strategic aims that are, you know, I think still relevant. And they go to 2016 to ensure the AMSWS in Sydney is a high-performing, effective service that delivers a culturally appropriate service. Second is to promote the AMS as a lead organisation in the design and development and delivery of comprehensive primary health care. We always tried to ensure that that was the case. And the third one is to build the capacity of the AMS and the management. The board at its meetings would always have requests from staff, say, we want to do this training course, we want to do that training course. It's going to require us to go off-site to do that. We'd never knock one back. We'd say, yeah, because we know that it's going to enhance the capacity of our service. And there were so many people that would come up to me, when I'd go there as a patient, they knew that I was the chairperson or on the board. They'd say to me, oh, thanks for doing that, Brad. Oh, look, we need you to do that, so thank you for doing that. It was a two-way street, but everyone had an understanding, so it was very, very good. And look, our concept of health, I think it goes without saying that, it's not just about the physical well-being of a person, because you can walk into a place and not have any sort of arthritis or muscular ailments or anything like that. You can walk into it, but it's also to do with the social and emotional, cultural well-being of the community. We took it upon ourselves to try and be that beacon for all these things in our community. That's just, look, go back, but that's one of the photos, and look, it may seem like it's something that's set up, but I think 90 odd staff, 70 of which were Aboriginal. And Louise there, she was there for a very long time, as were a lot of the other staff. We had some of the staff when it closed down, they were there from day one. This little graph just shows, as far as the population goes, in regard to the local government areas. So obviously Blacktown, Mount Druitt being in Blacktown, we obviously had got a lot of people from Blacktown, but also from Penrith and out in the Hawkesbury. That they were the areas that were quite central to the AMS Western Sydney. As I said before, and I wasn't aware of the exact numbers, but I know about the roundabout numbers that it's the largest Aboriginal community in Australia, Western Sydney. If you include those areas that I've spoken about, that is the largest concentration of Aboriginal people in the country, and it had a pretty good AMS, pretty good Aboriginal medical service that, strangely enough, wasn't the best funded in Australia. If we talk about funding, it was probably one of the poorer cousins, so to speak, as far as funding goes. And government obviously had their ways of thinking on how they would fund our AMS, thinking that there's all these other services around the place. We're in a big city, so we've got all these other services. You don't need as much funding as we do out in Alice Springs or up in the Pilbara, because they just don't have the access to all the services that we have here. But at the same time, Aboriginal people weren't accessing services prior to the AMS being set up and dying at a much younger age, and it probably all goes without saying. These are just some of the all the programs. There's a list. I won't go through them all, but a lot of them that I've had to become involved with over the time of the AMS. Now look, here's some good photos. We've got the Mums and Bubs program up in the top corner there. Some of the programs as far as trying to help mothers dealing with their pregnancy and then dealing with issues that they were having after they had the baby. We had programs like that. We'd have a lot of programs that would involve the community. There's one there that I was involved in. This one just here. Look, that was a golf day. We'd have a golf day, which we try and involve as many community members in as possible. But it wasn't strictly about trying to just deal with the issues. It was trying to bring the community together, so we could, do something that was out of the norm, where we'd all just turn up the AMS and try and deal with the issues that we had. Something that just would get us away from the AMS, where we could have a bit of fun, and that was in the middle of summer. There'd be fruit, there'd be water, and something that was just different. I don't know if you've heard or seen this quote before. I'll let you Oh, it's gone. I'll let you read that at your own leisure, but you know, it's something that really hits home, I think, in this country. Australia, one of the most developed countries in the world. You know, we like to think that, and you know, I won't argue. I think we probably are, but we have our own issues, and you know, we've got to deal with them as we see fit, and we really need to make sure that you know, the weakest link, and I'm sorry to refer to it in that way, but the weakest link, that we look after those people who aren't doing the best or don't have the best lot in life, but we just want to make sure that we do our best and our utmost to try and look after them. And you know, I think we certainly try to do that out in Western Sydney. Aboriginal people out there, you know, the majority of us were moved there by the government back some time ago. My family itself was moved out there from different areas, and from Redfern actually. My family before I was born were here in Redfern, and Dee can probably speak more about this, but when we first moved out there, there weren't any Aboriginal services. And I'm told a story that, you know, when my mum tried to get me into a preschool, I was denied simply because I was Aboriginal. You know, and this is the early 70s, of course. So what all the mothers and all the families out there said that they do is, well, let's start an Aboriginal preschool. We did have an Aboriginal preschool out there, but unfortunately that was shut down some years ago. Just, you know, in regard to exactly what happened toward the end of the AMS Western Sydney, and I'll try and wind up by saying this. If there's one thing that I'm really dirty on, it's the government coming out, or government officials coming out to the AMS Western Sydney, coming to a board meeting sometime in the middle of June and saying that they no longer fund the organisation. And that was heartbreaking, because my own family members, mum and dad, aunties, uncles and other interested community people out there in Western Sydney did all they could to fight to establish the organisation. You know, and that's something I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life, but you know, there's still a lot of fight in me. I know I'm still fairly young, I think. Even though I have my little conditions here and there, I know I can still offer a lot, and I'll do what I can. There is a bit of you know, conversation. There's a few things that are happening out in Western Sydney. So look, we're going to continue to fight, and we just want to make sure that the Aboriginal people of Western Sydney, you know, continue to receive the services that are needed, the much services that are needed. It's not just a matter of turning up and saying to the doctor, I've got headaches, here you go, so take some Panadol. It's a matter of trying to establish a new service, trying to ensure that there's a service there, and there are doctors and there are clinicians and that there are other health workers there that are going to ask those questions and interrogate the patient and interrogate people. Say, well, hang on, you're getting headaches, how long have you been getting headaches for? You know, your eyesight's good, there might be something else. To interrogate them to find out exactly what the issue is, what they are, what the issues that each individual is having. So, look, like I said, we're fighting, and we're going to do everything that we can. So, I'll sign off by saying, watch this space as far as Western Sydney is concerned, and we'll do all that we can out there. And look, I want to thank you all very much for listening to my story and listening to the story of the AMS Western Sydney. And you know, I hope that there's something you can take away from this, and you know, perhaps have some sort of effect on someone, one of the bureaucrats or one of the government officials that you know, are looking after Aboriginal health in Western Sydney, because what's happening out there right now is not the best thing for us. So, thank you very much.